little bit too complex to talk about in just 5 minutes. So if you're interested, see me, and also I put some materials on your tables for the EMDR. I thought I would take a few minutes to talk about success coaching and how that works in terms of what I do, which is a little bit different, I think, than, say, life coaches. So I thought I'd tell you about Rachel. First off, Rachel was struggling with the voice of her mother, and her mother had said to her repeatedly while she was growing up, "You'll never amount to anything." And of course, that voice stayed in her head. Vicki was an African-American woman who grew up in the projects. By the way, all of these people are in California. Nobody's here in Colorado. So you can't possibly...
I know her.
Yeah, she grew up in the projects. She was very poor, but she was very bright. She went to school, got herself educated. She was in sales. And what she noticed over a period of time was that she would get to a particular point of success in what she was doing, and then she would do something to sabotage herself. Okay, Paul. Paul always excelled, but he often had problems at work, particularly with his boss and with office politics. And so you can sort of imagine what emanated from those difficulties. He didn't like to follow rules. Valerie. Every time she made a mistake, she would hear her perfectionistic father's voice say, "What's wrong with you?" And of course, that was very inhibiting. Tran was an immigrant, a Vietnamese immigrant, who wanted to be able to speak better English. He had worked with an English coach for people who are bilingual, English as a second language, and still could not really do well with English. And it was definitely a problem for him at work. It was inhibiting his career progress. Ellen had an abundance of confidence, but had been unable to move to the next level in terms of her earnings, okay? And again, she always bumped into something stopping her in terms of making more money. And finally, Elliot. Elliot enjoyed playing golf. He was a fairly good golfer, I guess as those things go. His score was in the high 80s, low 90s. He'd been playing for a while. He was okay as long as it was recreational golf. But as soon as he got into a tournament, his game would absolutely fall apart, okay? And so what did all these folks have in common, okay? They needed a success coach. Now the kind of work that I do, okay, is a little bit different than people who are traditionally trained in psychology. Traditional psychology tends to focus on pathology, okay, and to focus on fixing what's wrong. Oh my God, okay, I've only got 2 minutes left. And so what I do in conjunction with the EMDR is to focus on optimal functioning, strengthening what is right in terms of the person's thoughts, feelings, and behavior. And so let me go back to all of my examples, which took longer than I thought, and tell you about Rachel, who was able to get to the point where, with the use of the EMDR, she really knew in her gut, so to speak, that her mother was wrong and that she could succeed. Vicki, the African-American woman, she got to the point where she understood, I deserve to have as much as I can earn. And she was able to do that instead of bumping into those barriers. Paul worked with channeling his rebelliousness in more constructive and healthy ways. Valerie, whose father always said, "What's wrong with you?" okay, got to the point where she could truly know that she could learn from her mistakes. Tran, actually, his English improved with 2 EMDR sessions. His English improved incredibly well. Paul's golf game, or Elliot's golf game, sorry, he got to the place where he could play a tournament and do as well in a tournament as he could in recreational golf. So that's what the EMDR and positive psychology in conjunction can do in success coaching. So Lynn Kennedy Baxter, BeConfidentToday.com.